Hello everyone and Merry Christmas. Thanks for joining us for this Tuesday's edition of Alaska Weather. I'm Dave Percy, meteorologist with the National Weather Service, and I'll be hosting today's show. First graphic here, hazardous weather graphic showing what's colored for a winter storm watch for the Juneau area, Admiralty Island, and same general area that the advisory was out for last night. This goes into effect for Wednesday night, starting Wednesday evening and continuing throughout the night for heavy snow, possible heavy snow. Upwards of 5 to 9 inches of snow could fall when that system that's off to the southwest finally begins to kick through again overnight Wednesday night. And up to the north, the winter weather advisories in the central interior ended at 3 p.m. today. Otherwise, they carry on through this evening. They're on the passes of the Brooks Range for gusty winds and reduced visibilities and blowing snow. But along the eastern Beaufort Sea coast, there's a blizzard warning out today with winds of 30, gusting 50 miles an hour through this area, resulting in low visibilities, whiteout conditions actually, along with wind chills below 50 degrees below zero. And again, that ends at, or due to end at 9 p.m. this evening. Otherwise, they'll kick it out longer. And for the satellite imagery, really not a lot going on up there except for those strong gusty winds along the eastern Arctic coast and areas of the northwest interior as well. Higher elevations back up in toward the Brooks Range, some pretty brisk winds. Otherwise, this low west-southwest of the Queen Charlotte Islands, pushing moisture mostly to the northwest, and then the main front kind of swinging in well to the south. But that's actually linked up with a weakening band right through here that's pulling up toward the northwest. And that pushed some moisture onto the North Gulf Coast today in the form of rain initially, and then it's changing over to, in the form of snow changing to rain, such as Portage Glacier with winds gusting to 40 miles an hour, had snow changing to rain this afternoon, pushing temperatures into the upper 30s. And of course, Passage Canal, same thing. And this front here, as it passed Kodiak, they picked about 4/10 of an inch of rain before it ended earlier today. And Soldovia up to the north had about roughly 1,500ths, some of that falling in the form of snow, but even there warming up, changing over to rain. And some light snow, a couple inches falling at Alyeska today. And some of that snow trying to make its way westward down Turnagain Arm. Otherwise, some areas of light snow again out here over the southwest, interior southwest coast. Persistent upper level low pressure area there over the northern Bering Sea, keeping it cloudy with a few flurries around St. Lawrence Island, back up into the Bering Strait, and actually even the Chukchi Sea there. But temperatures up to the north, quite cold on the north slope. This afternoon, Umiat Airfield was 44 degrees below zero, and a few hours ago earlier this morning they were down to 46 degrees below zero, and that whole white area could even been a little colder there to the west. For example, the winds dropped off at Point Lay today, and they dropped to minus 30, and also Bettles falling to about 30 degrees below zero, as well as Noatak. So you lose the wind and have the clear skies, temperatures falling to what you'd expect for this time of the year up in the interior on up to the north. And then, of course, those whiteout conditions with those gusty winds, 30, 50 miles an hour occurring up there today with, let's see, Barter Island had gusts to 50 miles per hour, Dead Horse 46 miles per hour. Even pretty breezy here at Kotzebue this afternoon. Last hour had gusts to 30 miles an hour with Indian Mountain. Still windy, gusts 35 miles an hour, and also the winds kicked up Delta Junction. You can see a little bit of a tightening of the gradient there in that, I think of the Tanana Valley wind. Delta Junction getting gusts to about 35 miles an hour as well with, I think, temperatures in the single digits there. Otherwise, a few flurries here over the northern southeast coast, but generally cloudy, but diminishing precipitation. Anything that did occur was quite light. The main bulk of the moisture is still off the coast and kind of getting pulled back to the northwest initially, with the main 979 millibar low here, well west of the Queen Charlotte. So we have a weakening system here along the Alaska Peninsula. This front washing out as it moves inland. And again, the rain ending at Kodiak. We had areas of snow showers along the Alaska Peninsula, areas of light snow or snow showers here over the southwest part of the state, mostly west of the Kuskokwim Mountains or from to the south, although clouds did move into sleep mute today. And then we had light snow showers up the west side, or the eastern slopes of the western Alaska Range, and also here for the Fox Islands, snow showers, or snow mixed with rain across much of the Aleutian chain today. And for tonight, this low front will finally push moisture inland in the form of rain and snow, depending on your elevation and your latitude. Otherwise, this low is starting to weaken now, but stays off the coast. Moisture kind of left over here across Cook Inlet. Maybe some of that could get in northern Cook Inlet. Probably won't be anything in the Mananuska-Susitna Valley. And some light snow possible over the Kenai Peninsula, with light snow along this trough in the west. Clear and cold again from North Waitok, eastern Tanana Valley, 40-mile country. Again, easily into the mid-minus 30s there in the wind-sheltered areas. And who knows, North Slope could see temperatures close to 50 below zero, and the winds diminishing along the Arctic coast there, especially on the east side, but not ending completely over toward Kaktovik and Barter Island, but definitely coming down and conditions improving dramatically. Snow showers, Bristol Bay, and this low to the south here, keeping a pretty good chance of rain or rain and snow mix there across the Aleutians, but wind's not really all that strong, and precipitation amounts won't be that heavy. And then for Wednesday, wind flow becomes a little more northeasterly from the easterly flow as this low center slowly pulls off to the east. Another low center here developing along this front, trying to move northward there toward the Alaska Peninsula. So basically kind of chilly air mass out here over the Bering Sea with the high pressure to the west, circulating that cold air down out of the Arctic. And snow shower is a pretty good bet anywhere with a lot of cloudy skies out there in marginal VFR. Again, leftover moisture for some scattered snow showers, really isolated here for Cook Inlet, but get a little more numerous, although they won't be numerous, but get a little more widespread, light, very light. Amounts will be negligible all the way up along this trough axis to the Noatak Valley there in the northwest coast. And you can see winds light up along the Arctic coast now, and still a little breezy, but not too bad. Probably less wind tomorrow than what you saw today for Delta Junction. This low beginning to weaken now, continuing, but still off the coast, so it's going to finally push the moisture in. And again, tomorrow evening, the winter storm watch for heavy snow for the Juneau area. As that comes through, will be bringing warmer air with it, but before it does, there could be a pretty good shot of snow moving through that area. And then for the outlook on Thursday, again, still a pretty good chance of snow north of Juneau, Haines on up to Skagway, and those areas could see a significant shot. Otherwise, changing to rain down to the south now along the coast. And that initial low center just really dissipates, moves in and dissipates, and then the next frontal boundary there, still off the coast, keeps it wet for the North Gulf Coast. Chance of snow actually makes it into the Copper River Basin, but should cut off there at the Alaska Range and be dry up over the Tanana Valley, clear up to the eastern Arctic coast, and areas of snow out here in the west with this easterly flow hitting the colder air coming down from the north. So light snow, a little breezy there through the Bering Strait, St. Lawrence Island. Snow showers all the way down to the eastern Aleutians, but you can see not really widespread, and the wind's not all that strong. Winds go calm out here over the west central Aleutians, with high pressure, but start to swing around to the east or southeast there, but won't be too strong, at least through the afternoon Thursday for the far western chain. Lows tonight, anywhere from 25 to 50 below zero, north slope into the eastern interior. Milder with the clouds here, looks like lower 20s or near 20. Cook Inlet, lower teens, the Susitna Valley, still below zero, Copper River Basin, near freezing for Kodiak. Highs, minus 20s in the upper Yukon Valley, upper 20s south central Alaska, and mid 40s for Sitka. Lows the following morning, a little milder up here in the north, but still well below zero. Lower 20s south central Alaska, and then the highs warming up into the single numbers below zero along the Arctic coast.
And now, aviation weather around Alaska.
First line weather graphic, pretty good VFR here over the northern interior. Some spotty areas of marginal and VFR, or I'm sorry, IFR here off to the east, but the widespread area of IFR here over the southwest interior and up the eastern slopes of the western Alaska Range, back down to Kodiak, Bristol Bay, the Alaska Peninsula areas. Marginal for the Bering Sea and the Aleutians, and the southeast coast, lots of IFR. That holds into the afternoon as well, although the Prince of Wales Island area up to about Port Alexander, marginal. Some VFR breaking out over the Gulf of Alaska, but marginal VFR hanging in along the coast range. Generally pretty good here over the eastern northern interior. IFR slipping on up into Kotzebue Sound and as far north as Kivalina, with maybe spilling into the Noatak Valley, definitely into the Selawik Valley there, and then areas of all the way down to Kodiak Island, Bristol Bay, and the peninsula. Marginal for the Bering Sea. And for Thursday morning, IFR, St. Lawrence Island through the Bering Strait, Seward Peninsula, right up to the northwest coast there, and inland almost to the Kobuk Valley. Otherwise, marginal VFR into the Koyukuk Valley. Staying VFR here up over the northeast, much of the Arctic coast there from Wainwright all the way east to Barter Island. And Tanana Valley, not too bad, a little bit of marginal stuff here and there, but the IFR south of the Alaska Range, actually across all southern Alaska, North Gulf Coast, Kenai Peninsula, northern western Alaska Range, Kodiak, looks like Kuskokwim Valley and mountains into the Alaska Peninsula. IFR for the Panhandle. And for the afternoon, that holds there, no change there, marginal in the Gulf of Alaska. IFR across southern Alaska to the Alaska Peninsula. A little bit of a break here, and then back to the IFR farther to the north, especially back to the northwest here. Marginal VFR for the southeast, or for the Bering Sea, and some VFR breaking out from about Adak, and especially for areas out toward Shemya. And for Anatuvik and Adigan, another VFR day for tomorrow through both passes. Lake Clark and Merrill, marginal VFR with the lowest conditions, possibly IFR on both eastern entrances. And for rainy, occasionally marginal. Windy though, VFR. Isabel, VFR. And Montesta, VFR. Tanita, same forecast, looking pretty good with VFR flying conditions. And for Portage, occasionally marginal, mostly marginal VFR. And for Chilkoot and White, IFR. Looking at the freezing levels here at the surface, again, hugging the coastline, kind of bisecting the Panhandle there, and then right along the coast, back to Kodiak, up along the Alaska Peninsula, still well south of the Pribilos, but north of the Fox Islands, actually a little to the north of the entire Aleutian chain, 2,000 feet farther to the south, and 2,000 feet kind of getting pulled northwestward here off the southeast coast and toward the southeastern Gulf of Alaska. And for icing, heaviest or best chance of seeing the heaviest icing, which would be maybe some considerable moderate, would be down here along the south and central coast of the Panhandle, Prince of Wales Island, maybe up to Sitka, Port Mount Edgecombe. Otherwise, just areas of isolated moderate possible here in the shaded areas, Kenai Peninsula back to the northwest, Seward Peninsula in toward Kotzebue Sound. And also here some from roughly Atka, just a chance, really nothing too serious here into the Alaska Peninsula, including Unalaska, Nikolsky, Dutch Harbor. And for the jet stream, basically slack flow here at 33,000 feet across much interior Alaska. We have this persistent upper level low there sitting near St. Lawrence Island. So we got some southerlies at about 60 knots across the Seward Peninsula. Otherwise, basically high pressure over the remainder of the state, except for this low, pretty snappy system here right off the southeast coast. Another low out over the Aleutians. Main jet stays to the south of Alaska. And for 9,000 feet, southerlies 20 to 30 knots here, kind of a narrow band up through the interior, diminishing there as it hits the Brooks Range, 20-25 with this low along the south or along the west coast. And northeasterlies 25 to 30 here between the high off to the west and the low to the southeast. Otherwise pretty light, 10 to 15 Peninsula, Bristol Bay, maybe 20 knots Kodiak Island, and 40 to 50 knots with this storm mainly off the central and south coast of the Panhandle. Same thing at 3,000 feet, about 50 knots, 40 to 50. Lighter south, 10 to 20 over the interior, and northeast 25 to 30 for the western Aleutians. Turbulence, occasional moderate chop there from Nikolsky westward and over the southeast coast.
Welcome back to another edition of Alaska Weather Facts. I'm meteorologist Dave Snider, and joining us here today is Eric Stevens from the Geographic Information Network of Alaska at the University of Alaska Fairbanks, GINA for short. And Eric, you frequently come on the show to tell us about these really cool things that we're doing with satellites over Alaska and how we can use these really awesome tools. But I'm thinking all the while there has to be a mad scientist somewhere working on the next cool thing in the satellite laboratory. What is being developed today?
Right. Well, you know, when I was a kid growing up in the boonies in North Dakota there, on Sunday after church, the old people, like my parents and their parents, would gather and have coffee and talk. And I kind of eavesdropped on them a little bit. And the theme of a lot of these conversations seemed to be, well, isn't it amazing what they can do these days, someone would say.
Sure.
And I was thinking, well, I don't know, I was too young.
Right.
Well, now I'm old enough in the weather satellite business.
You can remember when.
The new generation of weather satellites, I'm starting to say, isn't it amazing what they can do these days? Because it's always improving.
Yes.
Maybe an analogy here is like television. Television started in black and white, then it went to color. Analog signal transitioned to digital here a number of years ago. Standard definition becomes high definition. Right. Well, weather satellites are changing too. First weather satellites went up around 1960, not that long ago. No. It's comparatively young science. And every time a new series of satellite is launched, we learn from the past, so the mad scientists decide, well, we could make the next satellite even better in such and such a respect. Yes. And now the United States is on the verge of launching, or in progress of launching, a series of new geostationary satellites that are better than ever before. Okay. Let's take a look at some of the previews of what these new satellites can do.
Peek inside the lab here, okay.
Yeah, and so we'll peek in, and here are some mad scientists and mad technicians dressed in bunny suits. This is, believe it or not, this is the business end of a weather satellite under construction in a clean room. You don't want a speck of dust on the lens of a weather satellite's camera. So this is done in a clean environment. They are building a geostationary satellite there.
Oh, cool.
This new generation of satellites, if you had to answer the question, why are these better? Why do we care? Okay. You could answer it with 3 words: faster, better, more. The new generation of satellites are faster than the older ones. The images are sharper, they're better, and there's more spectral channels. We'll talk about that.
Any one of these called Steve Austin sounds faster, better, stronger.
Yeah. You know what though? These things cost more than $6 million.
Yeah, I'm sure.
They're pricey, but they are an essential tool for the Weather Service to fulfill its mission of protecting lives and property.
Exactly.
You got to have the tool to do the job, and it helps all of us when we get the accurate forecast, the warning in time, and this is the tool. Faster. On left here, we see what the old generation of satellites could scan in 5 minutes. On the right, that's what you get in 5 minutes, the whole planet, or at least one side of it. So it's faster. That means you can take more images over a given amount of time and make smoother movie loops out of that. Because animating movie loops really helps you highlight a feature that maybe you can't see as well in a single image.
Absolutely does, yep.
Let's zoom into a small piece of real estate like Texas.
Sure.
And we can see here a satellite that has a 1-minute movie loop visible light. You can see thunderstorms boiling there.
Yeah, look at that.
Yeah, the rippling of the top of the thunderstorm. This is a fun movie loop. We're going to be able to see things like this more and more often because of the new satellites being generated. Some things are only evident in animation. So that's faster. Well, what's better? We're able to now have sharper imagery than before. The Japanese have a satellite that uses the same imager that is on the new generation of satellites that America is launching too. An imager, that's just a word for camera. It's the camera on a weather satellite. We have something called the Advanced Baseline Imager.
Sounds important.
ABI. It's important enough, it has an acronym. Everything's an acronym. Well, an ABI-like instrument is here over the Western Pacific, and we can see this color image. This is what a human eye might see if you were riding on the satellite. But it's a little bit fuzzy. With new technology, you can post-process the image taken by the satellite to highlight and sharpen some of the features. So this image here of the Western Pacific then becomes
Whoa.
this image. Thanks to the
That's a big
processing
difference.
techniques, yes, this is the newest technology. So we've got a new satellite that can provide better data than ever before. And on the ground, we can process it better than before as well to really sharpen up the imagery and to give us a better view of the weather than ever before. So faster and better and more. What do we mean by more? Well, on the older generation of satellites, the imager, the camera, had 5 slices of the spectral pie, visible imagery, infrared imagery, something we can't see from the human eye. A lot of different slices of the pie. We're going from 5. The new imager has 16 slices. Each slice has its own relevance. Some are best for volcanic ash, for smoke, for dust, for telling the difference between smoke and dust, which can look similar under some infrared channels, but other ones bring out certain things. All of these 16 bands are important. In fact, some of the mad scientists, they didn't want 16, they wanted 24. There's always more you can do. But that'll be the next generation of satellites. So now we say, isn't it amazing what we can do these days? And you know what? It makes you think, well, what's the future going to be like too? It's so important to be able to know what's going on now in the weather. If you're going to forecast the future, you got to know where things are now. And satellites are the way to see that, especially in Alaska, where we don't have as many observations down on the ground. The satellites fill in the holes.
Yeah, really important stuff. And I love hearing about what we can see right now, but I love thinking about what is possible in the future. It's amazing stuff. And since you paid for it, it's a good time to learn about it. If you'd like, check out the website at www.goes-r.gov. And as I understand, it's a really easy website to use.
Oh yeah, a lot of good information about what these new satellites mean to Americans. And it's the Weather Service's mission to protect lives and property, and this is the tool how to do it.
Cool stuff, Eric. Thanks so much for sharing that with us today, and thank you for joining us right here in Alaska Weather Facts. We'll see you next time.
And now, marine weather around Alaska.
Welcome back. Looking at today's sea ice analysis, continuing to expand south and west here along the coast, and to a lesser extent down here from Kuskokwim Bay, actually from Nunivak Island into Bristol Bay. And not much change in northern Cook Inlet, although there has been an increase in the ice, especially north of the Forelands over the last 24 to 36 hours. And the gusty strong winds up here along the Arctic coast, that's actually opened up some Pollyannas, or actually pushed the ice away and opened up some areas along the coast as it got blown away. And also some of the shorefast ice really got beat up pretty good with those gusty strong winds. Moving on to the coastal water forecast for the southeast coast, south coast, southerlies, 30 to 35 knots tomorrow, seas 20 feet. Good gales on the north coast with east-northeast 35 to 40, seas up to 18 feet. And 40-knot gusts in store for Lynn Canal out of the north with 5-foot seas, southeast 25 for Stevens Passage, south 25 for Clarence Strait. Outlook for Thursday. Southeasterlies 20 knots, central and southern inside waters with Stevens Passage. Looking forward to some gale force gusts on Thursday. Lighter winds for Lynn Canal, north at 10, seas coming down to 2 feet. Small craft advisories all along the coast here, except the north coast, there'll be gales out of the southeast at 35, 13-foot seas. Otherwise, about the same sea height, 13, 14-foot seas all the way down to the south. And taking a look at Prince William Sound for tomorrow, northerlies at 10 with slight seas. Northeast 20 for the eastern North Gulf Coast, turn easterly on the west side. And then southeast 20, 13-foot seas for the Barren Islands. Southern Cook Inlet northeast at 30, northeast 20 north of the Forelands, Kamishak Bay, east winds at 30 knots. And then for Thursday, those winds swing around to the north here, 30 knots, good for small craft advisories all the way down across Kamishak Bay, or Kamishak Bay, not Kachemak Bay. North of the Forelands, small craft advisories north 25, seas 6 feet in the ice open areas. Gales coming into Prince William Sound, east 35 knots, seas building to 9 feet, 40-knot winds from the southeast there around Middleton Island. Western North Gulf Coast, east at 30, and westerlies at 30 for the Barren Islands. East side of Kodiak, south 15, light northeasterly, Shelikof Strait, and northeast winds 10 to 20 for the Alaska Peninsula, down to about 10 knots, really laying down, especially the seas down to 1 foot there for Bristol Bay. And then on Thursday, northwest 20 to 25 here, blowing across the peninsula, seas 8 to 12 feet, north 15 for Bristol Bay and Castle Cape to Cape Saracheff, southwest 30 knots. Those kick into gale force there up the east side of Kodiak Island with 15-foot seas, west 20 with seas 4 feet for Shelikof Strait. And for the Fox Islands, well, Unalaska Island, east-northeast 20 to 30 knots, strongest on the Bering Sea side, 8 to 11-foot seas. Unmak Island, we've got east-northeast 30 to 35 knots with seas up to 15 feet. And Adak and Atka, northeast 30 to 35, and then northeast 30 from there on out to Shimianatu. Outlook for Thursday, kind of with that next system edging in, the gradient late in the afternoon, southeast picking up to 30 knots, mostly towards Shimianatu. Otherwise, kind of a lighter wind conditions, maybe northwest 20 knots or less here west of Adak. But still northerlies 25 to 30 for especially Atka Island and eastward across the Fox Islands. Northerlies 30 to 35 knots, so there will be some gales, seas 10 to 15 feet. And for the southwest coast tomorrow, north 20 knots, seas 4 feet. Northeast 25 for the Pribilofs, north 20 for St. Matthew Island and St. Lawrence Island, north 20. Norton Sound, north 10. And then the next day, no change in Norton Sound, but brisk wind advisories kick in for St. Lawrence Island and 25-knot winds south of Nunivak Island, otherwise north to northwest, 20 knots for St. Matthew Island and the Pribilofs. Eastern Boulevard Seacoast tomorrow staying windy, even though it'll be a downward trend, but not kicking in right away there on the east side, 30 to 40-knot winds, 20 knots out of the southeast on the Central Coast, west at 10 for the west side, and 15 to 20 knot winds there across the Chukchi Sea. Outlook for Thursday, northerlies 20 knots there from Wales all the way up to Cape Beaufort, north 10, west side light winds Central Coast, easterlies 10 to 20 on the east side. For tonight again, moisture pushing into the southeast coast with that system, leftover light snow possible here from Cook Inlet all the way up that trough axis into the Seward Peninsula. And then this system moves in for Wednesday, and then tomorrow evening, we're storm watch out for Juneau for 5 to 9 inches of snow. Leftover light stuff here in the west into.
These forecasts are for planning purposes only. Call 1-800-WX-BRIEF for a formal pre-flight briefing. Always file a flight plan before you go flying. The U.S. Coast Guard Auxiliary urges you to leave a float plan with a friend or the harbor master before you go boating.